Good morning. So it's Sunday, I think. I'm a little bit off with the 4-day weekend, but I am super sore from my workout at the gym yesterday, and so I decided I'm gonna go to yoga today because I just want to like stretch out all the muscles. And today is a 75-minute yin class, and it's with my favorite teacher, so it's going to be absolutely amazing. Afterwards, I was supposed to go to lunch with my mom, but her dog had a bit of an emergency and is at the emergency vet in Grand Rapids, which is like not her normal vet. And so basically the dog is just there until they decide that she can go home. It's an emergency because we're a holiday weekend, but I actually don't think it's like a legit emergency. It's more like an urgent situation you want to have taken care of, but not like an emergency. So anyway, so I think we might go out later this afternoon, but just maybe not for lunch, maybe for like an early dinner. I don't know. We're just going to see how her dog does, and I hope that she's doing pretty well. I don't know. We'll see. Anyway, for the Spanx book, I'm going to read A Portable Shelter, and I have about 15 minutes until I should probably leave for yoga, so I'm going to start it now and just see how far I get. Done. I finished my 6th book for Shorty September, and this one was a slight disappointment, although it's the first disappointment of this entire like month. It's been like 3 days. So anyway, this book has a really cool premise, and I think the majority of people will absolutely love it. I just wasn't feeling it, and it could even be just like the wrong like day or the wrong time. But anyway, this is basically the story of 2 women who are expecting their first child, and they both are very into the truth and want to make sure that they don't tell their child any lies when the child comes into the world. And so they're starting early while one of the moms is pregnant with the baby, and they basically have agreed not to tell the kids stories and to only tell the truth. Well, they both take turns telling the baby stories, and that's the whole like premise of this book, is that one of the women who's pregnant with the baby is telling the baby stories just about her life and stuff like that, while her wife or her partner is at work. And then the partner or wife, I'm not sure if they're married or not, I can't really remember if it got into that, tells the unborn baby stories while the mom that's pregnant with the baby is sleeping. So it's this really cool like setup, I guess, for this book, and really cool back and forth between the women just telling stories. And of course all the stories like have truth in them, and I think that's why most of us love stories, is that we see that fiction is not always fiction, but has so many truths from life in it, and so many ways that we can like just gain enhanced empathy and stuff like that from telling stories. And I feel like the love of stories is just kind of the whole premise of this book, but it has kind of a fairy tale vibe, and I just wasn't syncing with it, which I guess is why I wore it, why I read it for Spanx. But yeah, it's like the premise was cool, but the execution, although perfect, was just not something that I was the most interested in at this moment in time. So I would say 3 stars. If I was grading it just for like how well the author did, 5 stars for sure, but my enjoyment would be more of 3 stars. lunch with my mom was lovely. Freaking love that lady. But it's like 4 p.m. now, so maybe it was the lunch and not just lunch. Anyway, it's like around 4 p.m. and ideally I would like to read 3 more books today. Just to catch up and to be able to finish Shorty September by the end of the day tomorrow. However, I also don't want to turn this into like a mad rush that's not enjoyable or that takes away from other things that I like to do. Like lately, I've been watching random doctor vlogs on YouTube, which I like because I think that if you are a doctor, your life is crazy. And also, if you're working like 12 hours, you have to be prepared for work. Like you have to be like well before you go to work or you will literally die. So I enjoy watching them like pack their lunches and do like mundane things like, you know, how do you live your life at work? Because I need that help in my life because, you know, I'm back to work now. I don't know how to respond to that. Same. And it's an adjustment. Even though I love it so much, it's always an adjustment. At the end of every summer, every fall is an adjustment. Anyway, and also I have a weird craving to play Sims, which I haven't had in a while. So there's other things in my life besides books, but I want to see what else I can read the rest of tonight and just have a really cozy evening reading whatever I decide to read. Prompts that I have left are Hoochie Daddy Shorts, which is a spicy read or a revealing gossipy biography, 70s Shorts, which is a 70s Shorty Shorts, which is a 70s or 80s book. And I already know which one for that. It's going to be Giovanni's Room because I don't really know what else I have from the 70s and 80s, and I have always wanted to read that one. Mom Shorts, a comfort read, which in most likely situations is basically going to be something really disturbing that to me is comforting. Elizabethan Shorts, which is a historical read, and I have an idea for this that I think is totally cheating, so we will see about that. Then Pedro Pascal Shorts, which is an unexpected purchase. Basically, almost all of these are unexpected purchases. Denim Shorts, a modern classic. I suppose that actually could also be Giovanni's Room. And that's it. So what should I pick? This is going to be Mom Shorts, a comfort read. It's Alice Thompson, The Book Collector. It is described as a gothic music video of a novel that whirls with weirdness, madly energetic, genuinely scary. Oh wait, hang on. That was Stephen King on another book that this author wrote. But somebody else left a comment on another book that she wrote as well, but not exactly this one. Ooh, wait, this could be historical as well because it says in Edwardian England. We're just going to see which prompt I decide for this one later. This is like part of the second paragraph. So it says, Archie had come into her life over a year ago. They had met by chance. She had been sitting at an outside table in a small artisan cafe off Oxford Circus reading a book. What better way to meet a guy? Just saying. So I'm only 6 chapters in, and basically our main character, whose name is Violet, she marries that guy that she met at the coffee shop, and He is absolutely obsessed with books and owns like a antiquarian. How do you say that word? Antiquarian. He owns a bookstore, a super rich bookstore owner who's absolutely obsessed with books and keeps bringing more and more home. So you deeply connect with him, obviously, as someone who also loves reading. However, he turns real dark real fast, and it's quite clear that he has some secrets. And at this point in the book, his wife has just been banned from touching any of his books or being in his library at all, which I think is, you know, great cause for a divorce. Like, why even bother? Okay, I finished 2 books today. I just finished this one, and it is around 6:19. Want to make sure my cat doesn't fall off the balcony. So it was really, really good. Basically, I think I already said that this woman marries this guy who's a book collector, but he's just very possessive over this one book of fairy tales that he keeps in a safe. And when she gets curious and looks at it, finds the safe, hacks into it, and looks at it, he just freaks out, and that's when she's banned from the library. I think I already said that, just maybe not in all those details. And they also have a child together, and the main character kind of starts to unravel. Like, she just starts seeing things that aren't there. She thinks there's like bugs crawling under her kid's skin at one point, and she ends up going to an asylum for part of the book. And I think that's really all you need to know. It's just very unsettling, uncanny, like borderline horror, I think. And if you love books and if you love creepy stuff, I definitely think you will love this book. I also think that while the main character doesn't start off to be very strong, I think that she ends the book as like a fiercely feminist woman, and I felt that that was very empowering and like a very lovely ending. All right, so next up I'm gonna read Destination Hay, which was an unexpected purchase that I got when I was in Hay on Wye, because I went there with Heather, just basically planning to explore loads of bookshops, and didn't. Hang on. Sorry, my cat like saw something and I was terrified she was gonna like jump off the balcony. Anyway, I didn't anticipate buying a book about hay when I was in Hay. So let's see how this one is. Hopefully it will bring back loads of good memories. I'm loving like the kind of glossy pages and all the artwork that's in here. Conventional wisdom says Hay on Wye should have been killed off by the online revolution. Conventional wisdom says these days there's no money in selling books, or indeed anything from bricks and mortar shops. Conventional wisdom says a successful town of independent retailers miles from a main road or railway station is pie in the sky on Wye. There's our guy. I definitely remember this bookstore, mainly because of that like wall right there, which was filled with all creepy books. I was really excited about going to this one too, Murder and Mayhem. The best. So this is like what the inside of Richard Booth's looks like. Super cool. Oh my gosh, I love this bookstore too. It was like a stationery shop actually, and I got the best cards there. Okay, so these are my favorite. I got in the UK, and like I do not think they sell them in the US, but they're called like pigeon postcards or something. And this is where you would put the stamp and like fill out who it's for. But this whole thing actually opens up into a card. It's hard to do it with one hand, but basically this is one piece of stationery that folds into like the actual envelope you would mail it in as well. It's like one thing, letter and envelope. I did not know this when I went to Hay, but there is like a Hay murder. I don't think it's focusing. Where this woman was like basically poisoned by her husband, and then someone else came over to their house and suddenly like had the same symptoms that the wife did after eating a slice of cake. Okay, so I picked this book as Pedro Pascal's short. It's like an unexpected purchase that I just came upon when I was in Hay. But there's a quote in here that basically perfectly describes Pedro Pascal shorts, which is saying, Hay is not about the books you are looking for. It is about the books that are looking for you. It's a sanctuary for books you would never have thought of looking for in the first place. And that was Paul Collins who said that. Done. Oh my gosh, you guys, I'm fully caught up and I only have 3 books to read for tomorrow. I read this book for Mom Shorts. I read this book for Mom Shorts, which was supposed to be a comfort read, and this was comforting but in a creepy, horrible way, and I absolutely loved it. This is by Jen Campbell, who is also on YouTube and has been on YouTube forever and is an author and a book reviewer and all that stuff. You should totally check out her channel, but I assume that everybody already knows who she is. I'm just like double checking, you know, just to make sure. Anyway, this is the coziest book ever. Let me just start with the intro, just because the way she even starts this book off is amazing. Hello, reader. I can see you hovering outside in the dark forest. Come inside where it's warm. That's it. Just step over the threshold and close the door behind you. That's better, isn't it? I suppose I should introduce myself. I'm here to tell you stories. I adore stories, particularly the gruesome ones. There was a time long ago when these brilliant, horrible tales were known far and wide. But then people changed them. They gave them happily ever afters where nothing really awful happened. And well, a lot of them became boring. I don't really know how much you're allowed to read out loud without like copyright infringement, and I definitely don't want to do that to her because I adore her to pieces. But anyway, she kind of goes on just describing like why she is going to be telling these stories. There's some of her favorites, and then she just has all these like little ways to like enter you into this whole experience, like that reading this is not just reading a book but is an experience. So she's like, you look a little worried, don't be. And then she like makes sure that you are comfortable before you start the book. And the stories are from all over the world, so they are definitely not Eurocentric, which I absolutely love. Okay, so I may have said this before, but basically when I was in the UK, I had loads and loads of tea, and I came to understand tea, you know, slightly. I was only there like 10 days, but I came to understand it more as like a cultural comfort sort of a thing, and less of just like a warm beverage, basically. And so I became obsessed with bird and blend tea and actually formed a tea-induced injury on my finger. I know, it's very serious. It's not even on this hand, it's on my other hand that holds the camera, but anyway. And so one of the stories I loved in this book was the house that was filled with ghosts, and this, without too many spoilers, does involve tea, and is basically the story. It's from Japan, of this guy who really wanted to marry this girl, but her dad wouldn't let her unless this guy found a house that had 1,000 rooms, essentially a mansion. And he does find one. The only problem is it's haunted. And so the rest of the story just tells what happens after that. Another story I loved, and keep in mind I love all of these. I loved all of these and still do. But The Son of Seven Mothers. I thought this one was super cool. This one's from India. And then finally, this one, even though that haunted house story was my favorite like the whole way through, all of a sudden we get to the end and Jen is just like, mic drop. I don't even know what to say. This one was my ultimate favorite. Like, oh my gosh, it was so fiercely feminist and so absolutely amazing. It is The Woman and the Glass Mountain, which is from Spain, and I was curious about this one because some of these stories are queer, and I was just curious basically if these are queer stories that have always been queer or if Jen added that in. And I am interested to learn more about queer stories of the past because I assume that there are loads of them, but in this particular story, it says in the back of the book that Jen actually made it queer, so that is just amazing. And then at the very end of the book, basically Jen wraps it up again, because remember, you were kind of like in the forest with her listening to these tales, and then at the very end of the book, she kind of draws you back to like the moment basically where it's just you and her sitting together listening to these stories. And she shows you where the exit is, or she says, but if you'd like to stay and read the book again, I can make us both a cup of tea. And Jen, I choose the tea.